Ms. Adeni Ifetaya, who is the CEO of Megastar Magazine, joins us right here. Okay, joins us virtually. Ms. Adeni, good morning. If you can help us unmute your device, sir. All right, Ms. Adeni, while we wait for you to unmute your device, we'll start with this. Nigeria military confirms failed coup plots against Tinubu. 16 indicted officers to face court-martial, according to DHQ. Ms. Adeni, can you hear us now? Oh, dear. So we're hoping we can catch Mr. Ifetayo to join us and give us his own view as far as this incident is concerned. The last time, you know, we're coming back. We're coming out of military coup 2026. So we can say 27 years ago was when we left that era of attempted coup or coup plots that toppled government time and again, all the way from 66, 67 and all of that till the First Republic, the Second Republic, the Third Republic that was bought, and this is our Fourth Republic. This was initially denied. In fact, the initial statement was to the effect, I don't know, we need to ask the military. Maybe it's a modus operandi. So when something happens within the military hierarchy, what you hear is first outright denial. They just deny, because what we had was some issues around they not passing exams or not doing well in exams. Maybe it's their own way of dousing tension, I don't know, but I don't think that strategy.
But Jeffrey, a lie is what it is.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to try to just look for a reason to give an excuse. But I think the military, if it's a strategy in communication to first deny before you accept, I don't think it's a great one. Because the day you finally say the truth, nobody will take you serious anymore. And you are a serious institution that is quite formidable. You are very important to national sovereignty. So maybe there's a reason when I have them, whenever we have them on the show, perhaps, or privately, we can ask them why this is happening. But Mr. Ifetayo, can you hear us now? All right, fantastic. We're trying to just wait for... Oh, yeah, okay. We're talking about this headline. Military confirms failed coup plot against Tinubu. What's your take?
Well, of course, we've spoken exhaustively to it this morning. Perhaps not enough. It's a conversation that we should mainstream and recall a string of events, you know, from the military where there have been denials before true reports eventually came through. And so we hope that they're watching by proxy or directly this morning, such that adjustments can be made. But there are more reports on the front pages this morning demanding our attention. Let's head over to the New Telegraph, of course, which doubles down on the reports of the planned court-martial for officers alleged to have plotted to overthrow the government. Of course, we see right there on the front page of New Telegraph, federal workers that stormed the National Industrial Court protesting, you know, issues of their welfare yesterday from the Federal Capital Territory. And we'll also see at the bottom many governance issues that you should be weighing in on this morning, and I'm sure that you have some interesting thoughts on it, Mr. Ifetayo. Opposition reps raised the alarm over non-implementation of the 2025 budget. Say House approved all loan requests by executive to meet today on critical national legislative issues. Now I wonder, because increasingly every day with defections rather coming through, we're having more APC lawmakers. So how many opposition lawmakers, are available, both the upper and the legislative chamber, to provide the much needed scrutiny for the appropriation bill of 2025 and in fact the 2026 appropriation proposal. Yesterday we've seen also 12 out of the 14 lawmakers of the NNPP in Kano State are now officially APC lawmakers. And so where is the scrutiny that we require for critical, issues of national importance like budget, like policy, like legislation? Because what it looks like now is that everything that the ruling party requires now in form of approval, in form of legislative oversight, will have it, as we say, the majority will have its the minority will have their say, the majority will have their way. So it appears as if continuously there is going to be, a smooth sail for anything that comes from the ruling party to the National Assembly. And there'll be very, very little scrutiny that will be put to bear on critical issues. But of course, the National Assembly leadership will say we are not an assembly that grandstands and, dramatizes issues. We engage constructively. But of course, the results will tell more than what we're seeing in the form of engagement on the floor of both chambers.
Which can get the input of Mr. Ifetayo about technical issues. So, but let's look at one paper and then we'll get to our first conversation. Let's look at the Guardian newspaper. The Guardian newspaper, as we wrap up, residents on the brink as rents spike above yearly income in major cities. Residents on the brink as rents spike above yearly income in major cities. That's a page of 6 read on the Guardian newspaper. You can see that pictorial depiction. Nigeria's housing deficit, estimated at nearly 28 million units, continues to widen. Lagos is notorious for increasing rent. In fact, I remember, if I stand to be corrected, it was, I think, Wale Edun, the Honorable Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy. I think there was a summit in Owerri where it was saying, I think between when the president, I think he was trying to compare, I'm not sure, maybe the end of the administration of Muhammadu Buhari and now, that citizens now spend just barely 50% rather than 100% of their income, their household, on expenses for their household. That's not true. Flat out, that's not true. I'm avoiding calling it a lie because the last time I said lie, Bola almost let me wrong. That is not true. Because I can speak for a fact that, for instance, in Lagos, let's talk about electricity. I used to pay, maybe if I recharge 100,000 naira, that could take me for another 3 months or close to 3 months. But sometimes, if I use everything I have in my house, the way I want to use them, the 100,000 naira takes me for just a month. So how am I not spending more? I can talk about fuel. I am spending about maybe 5 times more than I used to spend before. So what is it talking about here? Food, we know how much we spend for food. It comes up and down depending on what kind of food you eat and what you want to buy. But the basics are the basics. The rents, now, people are not, depending on where you live, the average place to pay rent for 2-bedroom flat, maybe 1.5, 2 million. In Nigeria, you understand, in places like Lagos. So when if I was in that audience, I would have asked him. That's
just for basic.
Yes, I would have, because if you talk about housing,
standards,
housing, food, transportation, those are the basics. So what exactly was the minister talking about? I would have asked him, so from where do you get your data exactly? Even food went up and then started coming down, but it hasn't arrived where it came from. You can argue that, whether it will come or not. So I don't think people should just be throwing numbers and throwing data. That is why when government speaks, their facts look detached from the reality of people, and so they begin to have that back and forth. Why are you not seeing what I'm saying? The people are saying, what are you seeing that I'm not saying? But I think we should be real. So this is why this is important. This is a page 6 read on the pages of, page 6 on the Guardian newspaper. Take a look at it as far as this is concerned, because sometimes I feel that the communications of the presidency is even conflicting in themselves. The president himself admitted that this policy is going to inflict pain. We are still feeling the pain. And then some people are saying, oh, the pain is over.
Yeah.
Are you guys joking with us here?
And
also?
You know, Jeffrey, perhaps we should also emphasize that accommodation in major cities in the country cost an arm and a leg. If you're talking about Lagos, the federal capital, you know, Port Harcourt, even Warri, Delta State, major cities in the country, you know, accommodation is not a walk in the park. It's not easy to you know, afford. It's not very affordable. And so in Lagos, there is a legislative intervention that will still be put to test before we can say that indeed the legislative intervention is now working in the favor of Nigerians who are paying very, very, you know, high sums to sustain their accommodation. But of course, there's also a housing scheme. But how, you know, how far-reaching, how much of these similar policies do we have in major cities and across, you know, the country that makes accommodation affordable within the reach of the middle class in Nigeria? And so it's a very important conversation.
Yeah, it's an important conversation. We're not saying the government has not done some things right. They've done some things right. But when it is not right, don't call it right. We're not going to agree on that. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll get to that conversation. So, Yaga Africa, we started the conversation last week about National Voting Intentions Survey, looking at whether Nigerians are really interested in this democracy. The good news is that they are, because 77% say they want to vote in 2027. But 46% of that saying, oh, we're worried about the safety of our lives. And then there are other data to query from their research, the rich ones. So today, we'll be speaking with CSO. We'll be speaking with the police, which is a stakeholder. I'll be speaking with the political party. And they are all joining us from our Abuja studio. But I must say thank you to Mr. Adeni Ifetayo. Sorry we couldn't get you and your input because of the technical issues. We'll be back in just a moment. Stay with us.